Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and this is an updated, easy guide to Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. This is the safer way of using it. This is the power lightning build. It's going to do a pretty good amount of damage, might not one-shot as much, but you're going to get consistently good damage out of it while doing a couple of simple buffs and then being able to cast it with ease and the safety of having full HP and being able to utilize it this way before you get into the harder version, the low health proccing, poison proccing, and all that stuff, which can be a little bit complicated. This is a really fun one. It's one of my favorite builds. This is the base build for Lightning that I did months and months ago, and I'm finally doing another video on it. So let's get into the details and have fun with this one. More importantly than anything else, this is probably one of the most fun builds to use in Elden Ring. Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike is the pillar of faith builds. Really, if you haven't used it and you're a faith build, this is something you absolutely have to try. The damage threshold is insane. You're going to see me shred Placidusax. This is Journey 7, by the way, so this is close to max scaling. He's got nearly 40,000 HP, and with just 2 casts of Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, he went down very fast. Now, I'll explain the buffing in a bit, but we're using simple stuff like the Jellyfish Shield, Howl, Shabriri, and Golden Vow to increase our damage, give us a good amount of damage at full HP. And then we're using the Ritual Swords Talisman because that'll boost us at full HP as well. And we're able to do a lot of damage, some of the bosses in Elden Ring, with relative ease, a little bit safer than the other version too, because we're not low health proccing, we're not doing anything crazy, so it's not too bad. The best advice I can give for Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike is to be close to an enemy, but not too close, and make sure you fully charge the cast all the way through, and then release it, and you will do massive damage to the majority of bosses in the game. You're going to see a fairly easy and straightforward one-shot here. A lot of the dragons could be one-shot in Elden Ring because they do take additional lightning damage. They're larger targets to begin with, and it really just hits them hard in general. As you can see there, casting behind them is always a good choice because all the lightning hits, you're going to do a lot of damage. And as far as Malekith here, this fight actually went on longer than expected. Generally speaking, in a lot of cases, he's one-shot. He's not too bad, but obviously the first cast didn't get him, and the fight ended up being a little bit more exciting than it should have been. But it ended up just taking 2 or 3 tries total to get them both, which wasn't too bad. Beast Clergyman's easier to get the one-shot on too, because he seems to have a more registering hitbox. Sometimes Malekith will be missed. But if you're generally under him at the right moment and cast, especially if you do all the normal buffs like in the other videos I do, he's very easily one-shot. With this, obviously, we're doing a little less damage, but even so, does do substantial damage to him, and it's not too difficult. He's not too bad with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, and as I've mentioned before, the majority of bosses in Elden Ring aren't, and this is definitely the build you want to start out with if you're trying to do Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. Definitely do the simpler version first, just a couple of simple buffs as we mentioned. We're also staying at full HP, which makes things a lot easier too. And now Gideon here, I don't think I need to explain, but if you're not going to stand there and listen to his monologue, you can pretty much one-shot him every time. I've probably done this 20 times to Gideon, only missed him one time, and the time that I missed him, his monologue went on so long that I was able to cast again and one-shot him. Now, for Horalu, very easy to do because that first initial cast can do massive damage to him. Then afterwards, you can get him with a second cast. As far as the initial version of Godfrey, can be a little tricky, especially with the Stomp, if you don't get him in one cast. Now, on to Radagon and Elden Beast. For Radagon, you're going to run up and cast after you do the buffs. We'll show the buffing, stats, builds, everything you need to know in a little bit. As far as Radagon goes, get that initial cast on him. And then for this, we did end up using a summon because it's just a little bit easier in general, given the fact that this is such a long fight. I don't use summons a lot in my video, but for this instance, because we're doing a little less damage, it's a little bit easier to throw in a summon for some extra help. Now, with the less damage and safer version, Elden Beast is going to take a couple of casts, and given the fact that he's got close to 30,000 HP and 40% lightning resistance now, and we're not going for the one-shot here, it can drag on for a little bit, so that's why I chose Tish to help me out. Feel free to use whatever summon you choose. I think Tish is probably one of the best summons in the game. I think that goes without saying. You can use a whole bunch of different ones, though. Mimic isn't bad with lightning either. He can do a lot of damage. But to show off the video, I didn't want Mimic spamming Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike at the same time as me, because I wanted to show off the damage he can do and whatnot as well. But for the final boss, since it is a long fight, it's a little bit of a marathon, and we are doing a little bit less damage, let's throw in the summon, see how much damage we can do. Alright, so that first initial cast did hit him decently hard, and that was in the front. Generally speaking, you're going to want to go a little bit behind him if you want even more damage. I just want to see how much damage I can get from standing in front of him, but I've actually had better luck with damage. A little bit further behind him on the side, casting, fully charging it, generally getting 10, 15,000 damage, even with the base build. And this is where Elden Beast becomes kind of the ultimate spammer, and he's a little bit difficult to get windows at sometimes because he's going to throw the rings on you, he's going to send out the waves, he's going to do Wave of Gold, he's going to do everything he can do and continue to spam it. One of the issues that I think people have with Elden Beast is the fact that it's not so much a boss fight as it is a marathon and a stamina check. And keep in mind that after that initial strike, because that still had buffs, we were using buffs for that, because you do have time to buff a little bit after Radagon. Keep in mind that the later Ancient Dragon Lightning Strikes, the strikes that we're using, aren't going to do as much damage. They're not going to be as hard hitting because we don't have as many buffs active. We're simply just using the Jellyfish Shield in this instance. If you have time, maybe cast Howl, but it could be a little bit difficult to do. Elden Beast may be able to hit you at range while you're using that. Also, Golden Vow is something that you could use again because as the fight goes on, that will wear out as well. Generally speaking, though, more to the point is the buffs are going to run out, so unless you're redoing them throughout the fight, you're not going to get as much damage out of the later ones. Even though Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike isn't bad as far as the base damage goes, keep in mind that Elden Beast has 40% resistance to pretty much every element in the game. I think all 4 elements he's got 40% resistance to. It's just something to keep in mind as the fight goes on, and even so, as you're able to see here, we're able to do enough damage. He is a larger target. A couple of the casts do hit him fairly hard even without buffs, but a few of them didn't hit him for much at all. Even so, it's one of the easier methods of beating him. I've been asked many times what methods do I use to get past the final stretch of bosses. The top 2 for me would probably be Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, whether it's the full health version or whether I just go for the low health proc version and go for a ton of damage. Or I like using the Blasphemous Blade too. That's very reliable as well for the endgame bosses. I hope this helped, by the way. That was pretty much all of the Elden Beast fight there. It's not too bad. Teach didn't last too long if you notice. Once you get to the later journeys and you get to New Game Plus 7, if you're not as familiar with it, most of the time your summons aren't going to last very long, so do keep that in mind. She did kind of die fairly quickly, but she did get some damage in while she was out there. And then obviously here, we're going to be able to finish off Elden Beast with one more cast of Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. A little tip here, by the way, as we're ending this fight and we're going to get into stats, build, equipment, all that. As far as these beams go, they actually have a rhythm to them, but more importantly, as long as you roll through them, they have very forgiving dodge windows with the roll. As long as you're rolling around it, you're not going to get hit by them. Something you should be able to always avoid with a little bit of practice. They can be annoying at first, but once you get used to them, it's actually one of the easiest moves to dodge. And if you're close to them, you can punish them as I did there. Finished them off with one last cast. So I threw this out there because the past couple of days I've done a lot of builds on this character with side bosses and such. I thought it was on Journey 5. I miscalculated. Apparently I was on Journey 7 and I'm going into 8. Now let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have the Gravelstone Seal plus 25. We have the Jellyfish Shield. We're procking the Black Dumpling. I'll explain that in a bit. We have the Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman, Lightning Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman. We're using Phlox Canvas now because apparently they changed the Godfrey icon. Then we're using the Lightning tier and then obviously the Defense tier as well because we want to have a lot of defense for this type of build. Now for the 150 stats, we're going to heavily invest in Faith. I believe I have 70 Faith here. We want a decent amount of Vigor in mind as well, and then obviously a little bit of Endurance. Everything else really is up to you. Do need 20 Strength though for the Jellyfish Shield as well, so keep that in mind. Generally speaking, that's about what your stats should look like at 150. Now let's get into the buffs. Now for buffs, we're going to be using a couple of longer duration things. First, we're going to use our tier, which has the Lightning tier in it. Then we're going to proc the Black Dumpling. When you go mad, it gives you an extra 10% generic damage. You can switch it out for any other helm and that minute still stays. And that's something that you want to do for an extra 10% damage. Then we're going to tap her off our FP. Use Golden Vow. Blessing's Boon is entirely up to you. It's a little bit extra HP. It does stack with everything. Then the last thing we're going to do after we fill up FP again is the Jellyfish Shield, Howl Shabriri, and then we get to cast Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike for massive damage. I hope this video could be a guide to starting out with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike for you. I hope it helps a lot. This is the safer, easier version. I hadn't done the Power Lightning build in a long time. I wanted to update it as well because apparently they changed the Godfrey icon too, and I was able to do this. The easier version should be very user-friendly, kind of your introduction to Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, one of the best, if not the best, incantations in Elden Ring. There's a Discord in the description, by the way. It's starting to grow like crazy. We have roles and stuff. It's a lot of fun. I started a Patreon too if you want to support the channel even further. If you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on my channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.